This is the time for the practice. Sitting comfortably in upright position, but not in a rigid. Hands are resting naturally, preferably right hand on top of the left hand. And gently close your eyes. And bring your attention to the primary object. The breath coming in and going out, and rising, falling. And no need to regulate, no need to control. Natural breath, natural feeling of rising, falling. In general, whether we like it or not, whether we notice it or not, whether we know it or not, this rising and falling of abdomen taking place due to the breath coming in and going out. So breathing in, rising, falling, making a mental note when it rises, rising, rising, when it falls, falling, falling. And as your mind settled, try to notice the different ways of its rising and its falling. It's not going to rise or fall at the same place or same pattern, a bit different place and different patterns. The sensation of this move, this rise and a fall will be different. Try to observe that and mentally make a note. Sometimes the rising can be longer and shorter. Other time the falling can be longer and shorter. Try to recognize that difference. And when we are observing the rising and the falling, there's a possibility that the mind will be distracted to the other objects. If that's a thought, then making a mental note of that thought as thinking, thinking, thinking. And this time we have to leave the rising and falling of abdomen. So this time secondary object, the thought becomes the primary. So we pay attention to that and observing it. So thinking, 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 and return back to the breath again, the rising, falling. If that's a pain in your belly, in your body, then again a pain, 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 and then back to the primary object. For further detail, when the mind is distracted to the thoughts, let's say the thought, leaving the primary object, and acknowledging that the mind is no more with the primary object, observing the object that we have. Other object is like a thinking, so in that case, make a mental note of that thought back to the breath again, rising, falling. As the mind becomes sharper, clearer, when we are making a mental note, let's say thinking, 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 often second or the third time, we see that the mind is more clearer, and with that clearer mind, the thought disappears and another object appears. That object often will be the primary object because we've been working with it and the mind becomes conditioned. So as soon as one object fades, before arises anything that conditioned to arise any other objects, mind will be thinking of the primary object. So it's very easy to let go and back. So when we let go, that's why we are not letting it go, because we don't want to be with, but we want to be with the primary object. But letting go happens when we have fully understanding of the object and return to the primary object again. So during this time, not only the thought arises, you may hear the sound, you may feel the feelings. So these are also other objects dominant when we are meditating. So there are three main dominant objects arises: hearing, feeling, and thinking. And whenever we are observing, hearing, feeling, and thinking, so there is an observer or a thinker or a knower that is knowing or hearing, that is knowing, feeling, knowing, thinking. That's why we make a mental note, able to make a mental note. And when we make a mental note, so the appearance is already there and it stays for some times. So 1 or 2 times of a recognition, it like thinking, and then it began to fade. So every time when we hear, there is a hearing consciousness. When we feel, feeling consciousness. Thinking is a mind consciousness there, but it fades, changes, and then vanishes at all the time. So consciousness itself, from this practice we can see, is not the solid, unchangeable, but it's conditioned, created. It's an event, the stream of a flow. When we make a mental note, that's why we will be able to see that the stream of a knowing is there, the stream of a consciousness is there, one after another. One fades, another arises, one fades, and one fades, another arises. So the past consciousness causes to arise the second present one, and present is the cause to arise the future. It's like a wave, the ocean waves. We cannot find the first one, but it's the stream. It's not a conceptualizing, but it's a direct experience. So when we make a mental note, we see that the technical term called Upada, Titi and Panga arises, remains and fades away. Now, if we do not know how to make a mental note, and often we put our memories onto the experience, habits, language, culture, tradition, and all backgrounds. So we become part of it and unable to see clearly, and we can't let go. So let go is something that's very crucial part in the practice of a meditation. And when we make a mental note, we see all these backgrounds beginning to engage or beginning to emerge in one single note. But when we see that clearly, then we will be able to let go of that. And there's just a clear awareness, just a knowing is there. And that knowing is the one that we're trying to develop. And this knowing itself, again, is conditioned. It's like a spark. Thus, when we practice, it's all knowing and drops, knowing and drops. Just knowing and drops. So continue practicing for some times. courses of dedication of merit. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the world, and the Lord of Death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachment quickly cease, and all harmful state of mind, until I realize Nibbana. In every kind of birth, may I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble Lord. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. Sadhu.